In a recent piece by noted economist and author Sanjeev Sanyal, himself a member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister and a long-time commentator on Indian economic and historical narratives, attention is drawn to a new initiative, Grokipedia. Launched on 27th October 2025 by Elon Musk, this platform uses the Grok AI model to generate and revise articles that, according to its proponents, correct perceived ideological biases in existing Wikipedia entries relating to India. Sanyal highlights 20 specific instances in which Grokipedia's editors claim to have rewritten sections of Wikipedia articles, added context, or shifted framing. Their stated aim is to incorporate court verdicts, primary sources, and historical context in order to reduce what they describe as activist or minority victim-centric framings, colonial era skepticism, or the downplaying of Hindu or nationalist perspectives. Among the examples cited are several significant topics. For the 2020 Delhi riots, Grokipedia reportedly removed communal victim emphasis and added context on protest, disruptions, and provocations. On the 2002 Godhra train burning, the entry is said to have shifted from describing it as a contested incident to train was set on fire by a Muslim mob, citing forensic evidence and court convictions. The description of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh or RSS has been changed from right-wing paramilitary to a more service-oriented volunteer organization focused on cultural and social service. Similarly, on the Ayodhya dispute and the related Ram Janmabhoomi movement, the Hindu narrative is treated as historical fact, reflecting the 2019 Supreme Court verdict and archaeological evidence while reducing the weight given to opposing claims. The 1984 Sikh riots entry now gives more prominence to the prelude of Operation Blue Star and militant activity alongside coverage of the anti-Sikh violence. On the partition of India, Grokipedia reportedly emphasized the role of Muhammad Ali Jinnah's call for Direct Action Day and presents data on disproportionate Hindu and Sikh casualties, contrasting Wikipedia's earlier balanced blame narrative. Regarding the abrogation of Article 370 and the Jammu and Kashmir conflict, the revision highlights reduced terrorism incidents and economic integration benefits instead of focusing mainly on autonomy laws and unrest. Beyond politics, topics such as the caste system and Hinduism have also seen significant reframing. The revised entries emphasize the fluidity of Varna in early texts and philosophical unity through Advaita, moving away from colonial anthropological interpretations or outsider critiques. On Subhash Chandra Bose and the Indian National Army, Grokipedia reportedly raises the INA's role in accelerating the British exit, supplementing the dominant non-violent narrative led by Mahatma Gandhi. Sanyal argues that this exercise is important for two main reasons. First, he contends that Wikipedia, because of its volunteer-driven nature and historical Western lens, often reflects a particular ideological framing of Indian history and society. Grokipedia, by explicitly aiming to correct what it calls selective victim emphasis and omission of provocations, seeks to restore what Sanyal terms empirical clarity and balanced non-communal narratives. Second, he notes that reference works like encyclopedias have immense influence on public understanding. If public money is shaped by certain framings, then academic debates, policy discourse, and social narratives are influenced accordingly. By using court verdicts, archival material, and government reports, Grokipedia claims to shift the baseline of what is considered accepted fact. However, the initiative has also raised critical questions. While Grokipedia presents itself as a corrective, critics may ask who decides what counts as bias and whether the new framing itself introduces another kind of bias. For instance, removing emphasis on victims from minority communities might risk under-recognizing those harms. Likewise, presenting one side's narrative, for example, Hindu claims of a pre-existing temple at Ayodhya as historical fact could conflict with contested scholarly interpretations. Reliance on state reports, court verdicts, or government documents might also reflect the establishment's viewpoint more than independent academic consensus. Sanyal acknowledges this tension. He writes that the challenge lies between activism-driven framings and historical skepticism, between colonial era scholarship and nationalist reinterpretation. Yet the central question remains, can any online encyclopedia truly achieve neutrality when the revision process itself is viewed as ideological correction? The emergence of Grokipedia carries significant implications for public discourse. In a world where digital knowledge ecosystems dominate, the way history and society are presented online directly shapes public understanding. The framing of historical events and social issues influences how school children learn, how citizens debate, and how policy makers think. Many of the examples discussed, partition, Ayodhya, Kashmir, caste, are foundational to India's collective identity and how they are represented has lasting effects on communal relations and national self-perception. Because Grokipedia is powered by an AI model, the issue of editorial transparency becomes even more important. Questions arise about oversight, review processes, and citation standards. Wikipedia functions through a community consensus model and an open edit history. Grokipedia's AI-driven structure might operate differently, raising new questions about accountability. Sanyal also situates the project within a global context. He notes that Grokipedia's challenge to colonial era narratives reflects a larger epistemic context over who gets to write history in the digital age. The initiative positions itself as a part of a movement to reclaim indigenous and nationalist perspectives in global knowledge systems that have long been dominated by Western academic traditions. At the same time, there is a concern that such efforts could contribute to polarization. If reference works become ideological battlegrounds, there is a risk of reinforcing our versus their narratives rather than fostering shared understanding. Sanyal presents Grokipedia as a bold intervention in the digital knowledge landscape, an effort to reframe how India's history and society are portrayed online by correcting what he considers ideological distortions. The 20 examples he cites span some of the most sensitive topics in modern Indian discourse, reflecting significant editorial shifts in tone, emphasis, and context. Whether Grokipedia ultimately brings greater balance or merely shifts the balance of bias remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that the struggle over how India's story is told online is far from trivial. It affects how millions of people perceive the nation's past and present. In an age of AI-assisted knowledge creation, the principles of neutrality, transparency, and pluralism are more crucial than ever.